Thanks for tuning into the Zelos podcast. I'm your host, Rocky Snyder. This week, Ricardo Urbina is with me. Not only a performance coach, but a breath-holding coach. Breath work, that's what we're going to be talking about. But before we get underway, the 3-day functional summit this summer, June in Chicago, July at Long Beach, California, in August, Providence, Rhode Island, performbetter.com. Need I say more? Check out my website, rockysnyder.com. If you're needing even more continuing education, we've got workshops in person and online, podcasts, archives, blogs, and more. And then you can join me in Kansas City, Missouri, July 16th to the 19th. I've got a couple of workshops and presentations going on at the NSCA National Conference. That's going to be, again, July 16th to the 19th. Check out Setanta College. You can get a Master's of Science in Performance Coaching, Sports Injury, and Return to Performance Management, and a whole bunch more. Just enter RS10 for 10% off tuition today. Also, follow me on Instagram at Rocky_Snyder. Click the subscribe button and enjoy the conversation. Ricardo, this is going to be a really great podcast. I already know it. Dude, we're sitting at the picnic table or the park bench overlooking a really nice set of waves. I'm not going to tell anybody where it is. We'll just say it was north of Santa Cruz on our way up the coast. And, I'm glad the conditions weren't all that great and the wind started kicking up and it was kind of getting closed out because we just sat and chatted. And then the idea of having you come on kind of came about. So I really appreciate you opening up your schedule and coming on the Zealous podcast. So first of all, welcome.
Oh no, thank you, and thank you for the opportunity. Yeah, it was definitely a beautiful day when we were catching up. But the truth is, I was also pretty tired, and it was great to like just have a little conversation and share some information on like some of the stuff that you knew about breath work and some of the stuff that I do, and yeah, and again, I'm glad the opportunity came up of coming into your podcast.
Well, me too. And I got to say, I was kind of beat in the afternoon. So the general consensus for those that were hanging out were like, I don't think I want to paddle out. And everyone's going, that's a good idea. We should just hang out. So I'm glad we did. But give the listening audience like, who the heck is Ricardo Urbina and where did you come from? And give us a little update as to where you are now.
Oh, thanks. Yeah. So I grew up in Venezuela, and then I played competitive soccer all my life. Then moved to came to college in Pennsylvania, played soccer in college, and then after I finished college, I kind of like wanted to stay in shape, but I could not commit because of work. I could not commit to being able to play a sport that require a team. Like I could not commit to like practicing in a team and then playing whenever they have on the schedule. So I started doing some running, and that led me into running a marathon and then running triathlon. And by my competitive nature, really got me to a point where like I really took triathlon serious, and I had the opportunity to race at a world championship level several times. I qualified and raced the Ironman in Hawaii, the world championship.
Wow.
4 times, same thing. I qualified for the Ironman 70.3 world championship six or seven times. Um, and then I training partner with some of the best triathlete in the world champion, multiple time world champion, gold Olympic medalist. And with that, then I also moved to California. I was racing with the Olympic Club out of San Francisco. So it also
Sure.
allowed me to, or gave me the opportunity to work with a lot of amazing professional and Olympic medalists in different sports, and some of the top athletes in many different sports, anywhere from water polo, swimming, triathlon, all the way to like rowing and sailing. And then, of course, during that period of time, I also had the opportunity to work with some amazing coaches who I really learned uh, all the magic tricks that you need to know if you really want to excel in any sport. Because I think at the end of the day, it's like when you look at coaching, I like to look at as a building an athlete as a pyramid, right? So the base, basically the athletic base, or the base of that pyramid, it really doesn't matter the sports. You need to have an aerobic capacity, you need to have mobility, you have to have muscular strength, like and yes, you can work it specifically to a sport, but at the end of the day, you need to have that as a base. That's, and then from that point you can work up to the tip of the pyramid, where like it become a little more sport specific, right? So
Sure.
and that's one of the reasons why I think like in many ways, like I've been able to transfer a lot of my skills into all different sports, especially now that I work, with breathing and breath work, and using apnea as part of training on every single sport you can imagine. So after that, after my triathlon career, I decided to train and work and guide long distance swimmers. So I give you an example. Like I help Kat Breed. I guide her when she swam from Santa Cruz to Monterrey and she broke the record. Help the Olympic Club relay team swim from Catalina to Palos Verdes a few times. Molokai to Oahu. I raced Molokai to Oahu from paddling. So been doing like all different type of endurance sports. And then I decided also about 6 years ago, I decided to take free diving seriously. A good friend of mine from Venezuela, he was the first man to break the barrier of free diving 100 meters, and at that point he had like 12 world records, and he was training for an ultra marathon. His name is Carlos Coste. He was training for an ultra marathon. He was kind of like looking for a coach and somebody to help him with his training. And at that point, I was also looking into surfing bigger and bigger waves here in Santa Cruz area.
Yeah.
So we did a little bit of an exchange
Oh man.
of knowledge, right? So it's like, okay, I help you go with your running coaching, and then he's like, okay, I help you with your free diving and your breath holding capability, and then I came into free diving full time. I'm a free diving instructor for Molchanov, so I teach both beginners and intermediate courses, and then I became a breathwork instructor, and
Well, let me just pause you right there then, because I want to kind of just explain to the listening audience a few things. Like the Olympic Club that you were a part of in San Francisco is a very historic, prestigious athletic club, the likes of which are like the New York Athletic Club.
correct.
They sponsor so many amazing athletes, they have so many resources. So to be in that environment's a pretty darn amazing thing. And then the paddling or the swimming, the women that you train swimming from Santa Cruz to Monterey, that's across the Monterey Bay. And for one, you have to pass over the Monterey Canyon, which is over 7,000 feet deep. And there's a lot of things underneath that surface that are just, it makes you think. And myself, I've paddled across it on a prone paddle board on 3 different occasions. It's 28 and a half miles basically from the Santa Cruz Harbor to Del Monte Beach by Fisherman's Wharf in Monterey. And you're dealing with currents as well as the Alaskan current, which is 50 something degree temperature Fahrenheit. So this woman did that without a board. And then going down to Catalina, that's another 30-mile race. And I myself, I've trained paddle boarders to do the Catalina as well as the M2O or the Molokai to Oahu, you also mentioned, which now you've got these inter-island channels, these currents that are whipping through in the middle of the Pacific. So there's some serious conditioning for those. And so hats off to you there. And then like that wasn't enough for you, Ricardo. You're like, okay, what do I do kind of like after winning the World Cup or after the Olympics? I got to do something else. So now you get into free diving. And okay, so where do you go from there when you're doing free diving? What's happening there?
So freediving, unfortunately, I haven't have been able to put the time to go to a warmer location to actually train for longer periods of time. So anytime I want to get deep into, I will go for like 2 weeks or something like that, and then like I don't have time off to like really be consistent with the training. Because the reality is like it's really as beautiful as it is to dive in Northern California and in California, it's really hard to dive deep, and the water is really cold.
Yeah.
The second you pass that thermal climb on like around like I'm gonna say like 30 meters, you just get freezing cold. So it's really hard to like focus and really stay relaxed to go deep very deep here. So yeah, like the the deepest I ever gone is being 50-meter, which is, I don't know, over 155, 160 feet. And
Yeah.
but and I now usually with practice, I haven't done any type of max breath hold attempt, but in the past I did 6 minutes and 20 seconds, and so it's
Wow.
my personal best doing, for example, dynamic on the pool have been about 140. I almost made it to 150 meters. So it's
Wow.
so yeah. I mean, I would love to like really take some time at some point to really see what I can do in the freediving world specifically. But for for right now, what I do the most, I enjoy teaching. I love sharing that passion for the water. I think freediving is the best gateway to also not only connect with the ocean, but also enter into spearfishing. That's another activity that I love.
Mm.
I think it allows people to really connect with our environment, and also it's a great way to like do the modern version of the human being that wants to live from the land, right? Because I think now that it's almost impossible to really live out from the land like back in the day, but it does allow you to do a little bit of that.
Sure. Now, I should point out that the way I got to meet you is actually through my son, Jack. And Jack takes these lessons with you Tuesdays and Thursdays, typically a couple of days a week at one of the local high schools pools where it's about, 12 feet deep or so. But you guys are going for about an hour doing breath hold training. My son, Jack, is a big wave surfer. Maybe I'm doing this, if you go to the video portion of the podcast, I'll throw some clips on there so you can see what it is we're talking about. You also like surfing the bigger waves, so there comes a point where it's essential that you're able to relax while getting tossed around and holding your breath for up to 45 seconds to a minute while your heart rate is racing. Here's the interesting thing, Ricardo. I've been researching a little bit about big wave surfing, and through my schooling that I'm getting right now, I found this research article that said that big wave surfing has the highest sustained exercise heart rate out of any sport, more than triathlons. They recorded guys up at Mavericks here, Half Moon Bay, just south of San Francisco, not far from here where you guys go. And the surfers out there with the heart rate monitors had sustained heart rates of 184 beats per minute. And that's not just for a few minutes, that's for practically the entire session. So for hours on end, the heart rate is racing there. So, folks, imagine trying to hold your breath for 45 seconds to a minute while your heart rate is somewhere between 165 to say 185. So, this is why Jack trains with you. And I got to tell you, I'm going to let you speak in a second here, but within the first few weeks, the physiological adaptations that began occurring with him and his ability to remain calm underwater or even dry land and holding his breath outside of the water was phenomenal. It was almost exponential with the way that it initially happened. And now it's more fine tuning. But first, thank you for training my son to be safer in the water. I can't thank you enough for that. And the other guys that join him there, I mean, you're doing a tremendous service to the big wave community, at least here on the Central Coast.
Oh man, thank you for sharing that. And yes, it's unbelievable the amount of the feedback that you just gave me is across the board. Almost every person that come to the class, some people are more consistent than others. I think Jack is one of the most consistent guy who had since day one have been in class pretty much every single class I done. And yes, like there are days where he finishes work and he tells me like, my God, like I cannot believe just when I thought I was kind of like needed, ready to like, pop out, come up and breathe. I just like close my eyes, smile, relax, and I was able to hold like another 5, 10 seconds and make it to the end of the pool, or just simply hold myself there, very calm and relaxed, and then I came up, and he's like, I really wasn't in need to breathe. So like, it's amazing how through breathwork you can do a lot of connection between your mind and your body. So one thing I want to go back to what you mentioned, and it's absolutely true. I a lot of time when I surf Mavericks and surf in general, I wear a watch with a heart rate monitor, and it's correct.
Mm.
So my max heart rate usually at Mavericks anywhere between 180 and 190, and then yeah, the average is usually somewhere in the middle 150s. So you are, which is really high. It tells you like you uh, from those times when you go almost to the max or at max level, you're actually you need to stay at that periods of time pretty for a long periods of time. Because if you think about when you look at that average, you have long waiting periods where you're just sitting on the board and your heart rate drops drastically. But then when it's time to go, you really go high, and you have to sustain it for such a long periods of time that it does bring the heart rate average so high to the 150. If you think of, for example, when I used to race at a competitor level at the Ironman in Hawaii, my average heart rate for a whole race used to be something like 145, 148. So this is like a lot higher intensity. And we do, it from your son and a lot of people that you train to. Nobody goes to surf Mavericks for an hour and a half. It's a
No.
mission. Some people are in the water 5 hours, 6 hours. I tell you, I went to Todos like a month ago, and
Yeah.
I was there in a boat with Gary Linden, and I surfed 10 hours straight. I only went to a boat once to grab a can of yerba mate, and then I surfed the whole day. And he's like, "Man, 10 hours? How is it possible? Can you do that?" And I had to tell you, a lot had to do with the breathwork training. It is amazing what through very and I won't say low intensity, but very muscular, low intensity muscularly training, you can really make massive improvement in your VO2 max, in your aerobic capacity, and your anaerobic capacity by really teaching your body how to be less sensitive to CO2, which eventually delay fatigues because it delays the effect of lactate production. And that's really, if you got to simplify physiological, that's what you do a lot with all these breathwork training, apnea, pranayamas. That's really the main focus, lowering the sensitivity to CO2.
And aside from that, it has uh, a wide range of benefits because I know that you're working with prospective NFL players,
Yes.
traveling to Florida and working with these collegiate football players, getting ready for the combine. So you're doing breath work, breath training with them. You're going to public schools, to grade schools, elementary schools, and working with kids with breath work so that they can have better focus, better concentration, more relaxed learning, being kind of in the zone. And of course, you're working with the big wave surfers. Now, there's another element that I'm learning about more, and that's hypoxia training or apnea training for people that have had that are post concussion syndrome sufferers. And it's just amazing how the breath work can create a greater circulation of oxygen into the brain when you have a controlled, progressive way of depriving it, but not to the point where it is obviously detrimental to the individual, especially those that are high risk, like post concussion syndrome. But how about this? Tell me a little bit about the football players and what you've been doing with them.
So excellent. So I've been working specifically with Eugene Chung. Eugene Chung was a big NFL player back, I don't know, like in the 80s, 90s. Then he coached the Eagles when they won the Super Bowl like 6 years ago. And now he basically works specifically with linemen getting them ready for the NFL Combine. So he runs camps anywhere between December and March every year, getting people ready for the combine and the draft. And he also trains some professional linemen. And the key for him was like, okay, he saw what I was doing at the K-12 level when it came to my program, and specifically, I divide the breathwork training program into 3 areas. So there is the emotional control portion of it. So we really can control and play a lot with our emotion by controlling our breathing. Okay. The one thing that I like to mention is, we have 2 engines that run our body: the brain and the heart. And the one thing that controls both of them is your heart rate variability. And the heart rate variability, it's only affected by your breathing and the way you breathe. So there is a massive, massive correlation between the way you breathe and how you think, you process information, and how you can act or react or respond to stimulations, right? So we do work that is very specific about relaxation, about teaching yourself how to handle anxiety, how to handle depression, how to handle being stressed, nervous, right? How to anger. Because whether you're in the field or out of the field, these are emotions that if you let them overtake you, then you're gonna lose track when it comes to like doing wise decision making. Okay, so we do that portion on the mental side. The other part is the mindset. So we do a lot of work on the mindset and kind of like relax yourself and really, really be able to focus in order to perform. And it also applies to your regular job if some of the listeners have a regular job. Because I also have done presentations in workshops for corporations. So as part of a wellness program. So the mindset is the other part that we talked about. And then for example, we talk about music a lot, like the importance of the music that you choose to enter in the proper state of flow. So a good exercise, for example, that I teach guys that I work with in the NFL Combine is the importance of picking from the second they step in the field to do the field recognition. The music is very important. I'm gonna share a story that I love sharing it because the feedback every single time I teach it is incredible. It only takes me like a week or two before I get Instagram messages from this guy saying like, dude, what you were right. So when I say pick a music, like number one, a lot of time we get into this mindset that we think getting this loud music that creates a lot of arousal in us is the way to get pumped up. In the reality, for most people, it is not. Because what it does, it creates a lot of noise in the brain. So it doesn't allow the brain to really focus and process information. It's just too much noise. So if you listen to like very loud rap or very loud like Metallica music or things like that, what you're experiencing is you're feeling arousal from the stress generated by the noise, but really the brain is not processing much information. So it's really hard for you to enter the stage of flow. So I tell, for example, picking some sort of like nice meditation music when they enter to the field to do a field recognition. And really, it's not walking around the field for the sake of walking around the field. You're going to get this because of you're a surfer, and for surfing, this is very important. So I try to get them into like, hey, you need to develop your sensation. You need to start looking at where is the sun? How is the sun going to move? Where is the wind? How is the wind moving? What is the importance of the wind when it moves? Like if you're looking at the field, what is it you're looking at the field? Is it facing down, facing upward? Is it one side? Is it the other side? Because no surface is perfectly flat, right? So they need to look at it. The same thing with the shadow. Be very aware. Where is the shadow generated by the sun movement? Because you don't want to pass the ball to a player when the player is going to have the sun right on his face, right? Now you probably want to force the other team to do that to their player, but the only way you can do that is if you have self-awareness of the environment around you, right? So a lot of time, for to do that, like you can't just simply like walk in the field with loud music, like smiling and laughing and really like, oh yeah, I just I did my field recognition 20 minutes, but if you ask somebody, okay, give me details of what is it that you saw, they're like, oh, the field looks good. Sometimes they don't even realize whether it can be a sunny day, but the surface is wet, and they don't even realize that. And you're like, dude, it's slippery there. You didn't even realize that. So these are things that. So we talk about the mindset point of view, and then the third portion is more like the physical training of breath work. So this is where we focus a lot on diaphragmatic work, whether it's through like hard blowing, doing apnea, doing pranayamas. Most of the dry land exercises that I do, you'll be surprised. People are like, man, I can't believe I'm sweating. My abs are hurting. I'm sore. And I haven't even moved.
Well, I'm glad you bring this up. I'm really because a lot of the guys or a lot of the individuals, professionals that I've been speaking with in the world of sports, when it comes to breath training, most of them have a specific cadence, whether it's box breathing or in through the nose, out through the mouth. If it's just how they actually process the breath, if it's all nostril, how long do they hold? How long do they keep it isometric in between breaths? It's all of these different ones. Everyone's got a special one. But what I hear you saying is, of course, there's so many ways in which to breathe, and they all have a place, and they all give you a certain physiological response and outcome. So, depending upon what it is you're hoping to achieve, we're going to use this style of breathing, and then we're going to transition over to this style and this style, which it's kind of like being in a weight room and only doing one exercise. That doesn't make sense. So I imagine you have delved into a whole bunch of different approaches in regards to breath work.
Yes, absolutely. So there are different breathing protocols for all different types of circumstances. Some are to calm you down, some are to make you recover very quickly, so you can, have massive muscle recruitment over and over and over. Some are to really just get you hyper focused. So and that's what we try to teach in the class. That's why when we do the class, um, we split it in different modules and different sections, and we kind of like tackle it one by one. Now from the physical ability, so I'm gonna give you an example, which is funny because you can use the same exercise that I do for big wave surfing. I can use it for a sprinter, and I can use it also for alignment in playing football. So I gave you the example of the exercise is going to be apnea, right? And I have my athlete. Let's say we do we're going to hold our breath for 90 seconds, 10 times, but we're going to have 15 seconds recovery in between the breath hold, right?
Wait, we're gonna have a cessation of breathing for 90 seconds, followed by a 15-second recovery,
Yes,
and you're gonna
10 times.
repeat that 10
10
times?
times, yes. Or you can reduce the time. Let's say you say start at 9.
Dude, no.
But
And how well do they recover?
oh, so we teach them how to recover very quickly, which will be a survival breath. So again, the same exercise that I teach to the surfer, I'm teaching it to the sprinter or to alignment, right? So
All
in
right.
the case of a surfer, I tell the surfer, hey, we're gonna simulate, let's say you paddle out Waimea on a big day, or you paddle out Mavericks, or any break, and guess what? You try to go after the first wave, and you didn't make it, and you got 10 wave on the head.
Oh,
What you have.
dude,
So basically, is you're gonna
I
hold
get
the
it.
breath in a static for 90 seconds, and then you only have 15 seconds to recover 10 times, right? Excellent. Now, most people, when they master something like that, they're gonna be like, the confidence if they go to the ocean and say, hey man, I can take 10 waves in the head, or to a certain extent, like
Yeah.
nothing guarantee, but the reality is like it does give you the confidence that like I work and I develop the skills to mentally and even physically handle, high levels of CO2 in the system. From the case
Yeah.
of a, from the case of a sprinter, what does these workouts have similarity to? Let's say you have a sprinter that you have them to do. We're gonna do a 10 interval sessions where you have, let's say, 30 yards, a sprint, 15-second recovery, right? 10 times, right? Now, 90 seconds will give you the sensation, the burning sensation in the body that you get from a 30-yard sprint. So you're simulating the same exercise without taxing the person muscularly. Because the key of this is, we don't want to kill the athlete. We want to develop the engine of the athlete, right? By keeping him fit and fresh. And I say fit and fresh because a lot of people tend to be fit and exhausted, which is why sometimes their performance, they have a really hard time performing over and over when it's needed, even though they are fit. Okay.
Yeah.
So this is why breath work is more and more is being integrated into a lot of programs, because it's a great way to keep the engine sharp, to develop the engine, but not kill you muscularly. In the case
I can see easily the physiological adaptations to breath holding just without reading anything. I'm just surmising that you're going to have a heightened level of circulation. Blood vessels are going to dilate more. The hemoglobin and myoglobin concentrations are going to be much more dense in the body as they try and transport whatever oxygen is in the body to where it needs to go, obviously into the muscle tissue itself primarily. Am I on the right track there?
Absolutely, absolutely. The gas exchange is so much more efficient when on you get these sorts of exercises. That so
Sure.
the key here, for example, with a sprinter, and I have plenty of example where nowadays, most track and field and cross country teams and football and most teams, they use those vests with GPS trackers in the back. I don't know if you see
Yeah.
it.
Yes. Yeah.
So I do this, and in a lot of the field coaching sessions that I do, where like I have guys, if you don't believe me, let's do it your way. So let's do your 30-yard, breathe whichever way you want, for 15 seconds, and then we go and we go. So what we do when we get the chart is that their performance decline rapidly, right? Uh, and you can see like one is pacing, because it takes, especially younger athletes, take a while to develop that sense of even pacing. So like the first few efforts are too high, and then of course they cannot sustain it. And then, but the other thing is like, if they don't use the protocols that I teach them, it's going to be a lot harder for them to recover, to be able to engage into the next interval, right? And then
Sure.
we do the same exercise, but they are forced to do the breathing protocols that I tell them, and the numbers don't lie. Right away, what you tend to see is the 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 times are very very even, which at the end of the day, that's what you want. You know what I mean? Like, because it can help you be not only more consistent, but it can help you reach max velocity and maintain it for long periods of time. And that's the key, for example, in the case of track or any sorts of running, right?
Yeah.
With for example, the alignments, then the exercise is, we need you to uh, to push, do your play and immediately recover for the next play. Now, here's what happened when it in the term of football. You know, a lot of people underestimate, for example, the linemen, because they're huge. They don't look as athletic as you think they are. But the reality is like the amount of muscle recruitment they need to push so hard for 3-4 seconds every time they start the play is insane, right? And it does
Yeah.
take a lot to recover. Also, because of their weight and their size, a lot of them tend to be mouth breather, which makes them very inefficient to recover. So they're like, and so it takes them. So what happens is you teach them how to breathe properly, how to recover properly between interval, is that you can see them go, play after play after play. And usually, in a lot of teams, they have to slow down the time between plays because they need their big guys to recover. But
Sure.
if you can get your big guys to recover quickly, and you already train your body to be able to run, let's say, to go in the field and say, okay, we can go and run 5 plays back to back to back to back at our pace in less than 20 seconds, or let's say 20 seconds in between play. Hey, man, if the other team is not prepared for that lot of work, the mismatch is going to happen very, very quickly. And in the case of football, not only mismatching is very important, but football is one of those sports that it only take one play and it's it. You're done.
Yeah.
Let one guy pass or run, or you're not fast enough, and it's a score. And it's
Well, you just think about it in between plays when the offensive line, the O line comes off, and whether they scored or they had to kick the ball, punt it away, or whatever. Now they're on the sideline. The camera pans over to them. What are they doing? They're sitting on the bench with an oxygen mask, especially, of course, Mile High Stadium in Denver. You see that they make a point of showing that, but it's happening at sea level as well with the Dolphins or wherever. So, how amazing would that be to train these players so that
absolutely,
not that
and
it's
not
not
only
necessary.
that.
Yeah,
Remember, through our breathing, so our body cool itself. Our cooling system, just as our heating system in the body, had a lot to do with our breathing. If you're cold and you blow, you can blow hot air. But if you're hot, you can also blow cold air in your hands, right? And that has a lot. It helps a lot regulate the temperature. So whether you are, no matter what sport, there are definitely very good different ways to recover through your breathing and help you cool down. And if you have control on reducing your heart rate relatively quickly, then you can reduce heat very, very efficiently. And again, at the end of the day, it's all about performance, right? So being very intentional and being very conscious about different ways that you can control how you feel, it will allow you to perform better. Like, I don't know.
so give me an idea of the risks or dangers. I mean, obviously, here's the thing for a listening audience: this is not done underwater, by the way. It's like
Nothing.
the
We're
only
talking no
maybe
underwater stuff. No.
no, we're talking dry land training, even
Yes.
with the surfers. I mean, they'll jump in the pool and do that a couple days a week, but they're also doing it dry land. And uh, how do you, from a safety perspective, what kind of safety protocols are in place for you when it comes to the people that are doing this?
So in land, there's really no issue. If anything, the worst case scenario could be like somebody black out in land. And if you black out, really, like, what will happen is at some point your brain will figure it out that you are high in CO2 in the system. I will send a contraction, and you're gonna inhale and you're gonna wake up. Okay, this is the reason why, for example, when people black out underwater, they bring them out, they tell them to breathe, and then the person immediately breathe, right? So from that perspective, that never gonna, out of the water, there's really no issue. Training in the water, you always need to train with the body. Okay, so you need to train with somebody, and that person should not be working out. The person who is looking after you should be looking after you, not training with you. And
Yeah,
then,
same with spearfishing, right? One guy's up top, the other guy's down,
yes,
always taking turns.
correct. And you have to keep an eye, and that's basically how it works if you go to the pool. The pool is an amazing experience of training with breath work, but it's not essential. It's not necessary. And a lot of for a lot of athletes in different sports that I have worked with, they never go into the pool. Like, most of, like, for example, the football players, or lacrosse. I do a lot of lacrosse too, or soccer. They they do like one experience in the water, or maybe two experiences in the water a season. Most of the time, it's just implementing and using different type of like breathing like exercises in their warm up or in their cool down that are integrated into the program, and that's about it. So the key really is to train. Most of the training should be done in um, inland, and a
And
lot.
on average, how much time are we talking for doing like strength training is probably going to be 25 to 40 minutes easily. Aerobic conditioning, we can, and flexibility, mobility drills, you start adding those all up. But when you chunk it out for breath work, what's the average that you have with your athletes?
I mean, anywhere between 10 and 20 minutes. 20
Okay.
minutes on the top end. But the thing is like you need to integrate breathing correctly into your strength and mobility, because here's another point. And you're gonna agree with me 100%. I know this because breathing have everything to do with your mobility and your balance. Okay.
Truly.
In the case of surfing, for example, since we're talking about, I have a lot of time, guys. I don't coach surfing, but I can tell you, I can have like a Jack, for example, and I can tell Jack, try to fake a turn inland and do it when you're inhaling. Doing it when you are holding your breath, which is the worst, right? And now doing it when you are exhaling, and the range of motion, it's like whoa, I cannot believe how much I can turn. There you go. That's gonna apply in the water. Okay. So or in the weight room. Same thing in the weight room, for example. Like you need to be in the right time of in the breathing cycle when you're doing your movement. Like for example, let's say you have somebody doing a squat. If the person is holding the breath going down and holding the breath going up, their ability to really, one, they can get hurt, and two, the other thing is their ability to really push is going to be very hard because they already have tension when they don't need to have tension, right? Because they're holding their breath. Now, there's a difference between the person inhales on the way down and exhales on the way up than if the person exhales on the way down and inhales on the way up, right?
Tremendous.
And that's the part where like not all the breath work has to be very specific on like just sitting down and doing meditation or doing that CO2 table or doing some sort of like pranayama or anything. No, you by understanding the breathing science and how your breathing works, you can apply it completely on every activity that you do. Like
Sure.
and I always sort of say like the important thing to understand with your breathing cycle is your power, your accuracy, your reach is always going to come out on your exhalation if you want to keep it simple, right? And like for example, I love a lot of the new commercials for like LeBron James, because LeBron James is huge into breathing. And actually, everything comes from Phil Jackson. Phil Jackson always talks about the
Yeah.
importance that like mindful meditation and breathing have on his player. And he always talks about like not every player of him bought into this, but he was lucky that three guys did it: Michael Jordan,
Yep.
Kobe Bryant, and LeBron James. And
Yep.
clearly, they all did pretty well. The four of them, right? Uh,
Yep.
so so if you look, for example, some of the new Nike commercial where like LeBron is shooting the hoop, you can see it every time he releases the ball. He's like, shh, shh, because it's the only way when you're that to really do the final stretch, to really get guide the ball where you want it to be. So using your breathing to your advantage on your movement and your balance is very important. Um,
But what's your particular your own personal program look like? I'm just curious because you've been doing this for quite some time now that you must have developed something. And do you do it on a daily basis? Is it more like every other day? What's the frequency of the work that you do for your own?
So I try to do almost every day. Like if I can do every day, I do it. So for example, one thing that I pretty much do literally religiously every day is when I wake up, I do Uddiyana Bandha, which are like the stretches of the abdomen when you kind of like vacuum your stomach and you pull it up. And it's more for like it's a cleansing exercise in yoga and in some of the Eastern Asian cultures, but it's really a good stretching of your diaphragm, and it allows inward especially, and it allows you to really start your day by breathing properly. And
Interesting.
you can get that done in less than 2 minutes, because all you have to do is 2 3 series where you do that suction cup from the stomach, and that's it. Now, as far as like sitting down and doing some sort of I would say meditation, same. I do it. I don't necessarily do it early in the morning when I wake up. I try to, but if not, I do it throughout my day. And meditation only takes anywhere between 5 to 10 minutes, where you simply sit down. And I always tell people you use three things for relaxation. Close your eyes. Closing your eyes does marvelous thing to your nervous system, because the second you shut your eyes, about your brain functions shut down a lot. So 20% of all the oxygen that you breathe is used to generate energy in your brain to process a stimulation you get through your vision. So closing your eye helps you to calm down very quickly. The next thing I tell people is intentionally do like a light smile. And the smiling, what it does to you is it allows you to relax your jaw. So one of the first points of tensions in our body is the jaw. As soon as we like somebody cross in front of us, somebody like says something that we don't like, we're gonna put tension here. So be very intentional about smiling and relaxing the jaw. Most likely, also when you relax the jaw, your tongue also is gonna relax. Okay, so then your neck is gonna be relaxed, and you be able to be calm. And then the next thing will be humming. So humming is a great thing to do, like, and by humming, you activate your parasympathetic system. So a lot of the vagus nerve have sensors here in the neck. So that vibration of the humming activates that. There's studies that show that it also helps you massage the heart to an extent. And because when you hum, you really extend your exhalation. What it does to you is it allows to provide plenty of space for your heart to really contract, to open up and close. So that's a great way to relax. So doing 5 minutes every day or throughout the day, especially when you feel like, hey, things are getting a little bit too fast for what I want to handle, it's okay, man. Like, I can do it sometime in the office. Just close the eyes. You can put music if you want or not, but just close the eyes and let it, let your system come down. The other thing, for example, that I do with a lot of, especially when I talk to kids or work with kids, is that I try to encourage them a lot to, when you're doing these sorts of things, focus a lot on what you can listen and what you feel, in the sense of like where you are in a space. Okay, and being very intentional about developing your sensors, it will allow you to really be if you're into athletics, it will allow you to develop as a really good athlete. As humans, most guys who can see, they tend to be really bad at developing their electromagnetic system in their skin. So what it does to you is like, a lot of people have really bad sense of where they are in a space. Now, some athletes, actually no, the best athletes in the world, they are very well developed in that. And this is one of the reasons why a lot of time you cannot explain, how did he feel a guy was coming in one direction behind him, or he had a teammate like completely in the opposite side, and he didn't have to see it, he just passed the ball. A lot of it is that they have that censorship where they can feel like something is coming towards them, or something is, somebody that they are trying to reach is close to them. And that's something that we can work on it. So a lot of time when we are meditating, it's a good opportunity to try to see like, hey, what's the distance between the noise that I'm hearing from where I am? What is like, it's very, very, it's a very good thing to do. and it will definitely allow your brain to like calm down a lot. So
Right on.
meditating
Okay, so
thing.
how about this? This is more or less like it's completely selfish question, and I will hold to it. I will own up to it. We've got swell coming, dude. We've got like tomorrow. It's supposed to be 5 to 7 on the east side, maybe 6 to 8 over at the lane on the west side. So we're talking several feet overhead, which is like my playground. I love that size when it's a couple feet overhead. You and Jack, you can take your asses up north and go for the big 20 to 40 or 50 footers. That ship sailed on me a long time ago. But if I had a way, like a practice, a breathing practice while I'm suiting up and I'm looking at the lineup and figuring out where I'm going to paddle out, where the peaks are, where I want to be, what would you recommend for this 57-year-old surfer that just wants to out paddle everybody in the house?
All right, you want to be focused and sharp. So I think,
Yes,
for
sir.
example, like a protocol that is very easy while you're warming up is, I would say, is going to be do 3 times where you exhale all the air and you breathe in and out really hard and sharp and fast. Okay, through your nose. You can do anything between 15 and 20 times. So, okay, and then after that 15 or 20 times, you take a full inhalation followed by a full exhalation, and then hold your breath for about 30 seconds. You do that 3 times, and you will see how sharp and awake you are. So it's
Okay.
a great exercise to do right before you paddle out. There is no mystery. You see, like, for example, guys like Jack Robinson, they say, like, do a lot of breathing, like hard breathing before a hit. He basically is doing this some sort of sharp uh, breathing. Um, so it's called a lion breath. So this lion breath, where like he's heating up the system and he's also getting very, very sharp. Um,
Hmm.
so it's really, you can be very attentive and you can like kind of like see things at the speed they are, right? I think, and you probably can attest to it based on the conditions that you're describing. What tends to happen a lot is, we get used to, when we have 2 3 days where we're surfing, let's say anywhere between 3 to 5 or 3 to 6, right? And then
Hmm.
all of a sudden it gets 8 to 10, and the water is moving a lot faster, and like, yeah, like you need to be able to be sharp enough to like pick up the same speed, because the ocean is not going to slow down. You actually have to, like, figure it out how to, match the speed. So
All
this
right.
exercise that gets you there.
Y'all, you gave me homework. I love this. Okay. And now for the listening audience that wants to know about apnea training and the work that you're doing, where can they go? Instagram, LinkedIn, what are some channels they can connect
So,
with?
so they can come to our Instagram right now. Is probably the best way to get with all our classes. We recently, thank God, the guy from the Quicksilver swimming in Santa Cruz allow us to work in the pool during the pool time they have at the Watsonville High School swimming pool. It took me about 4 years to be able to find a pool in the Santa Cruz
Wow.
area that would allow us to do some sort of apnea work. And I'm doing some work with them, with
Oh,
their swimming
nice.
team. So we do apnea with them. They invite me tomorrow. We're doing a workshop, not tomorrow, on Saturday. We're doing a workshop in the Burlingame swimming pool, specifically apnea and breath work for swimmers. So we have the Quicksilver team, both the Santa Cruz as well as the San Jose and the Burlingame team, all coming to the workshop. Um, so,
Fantastic.
so we do lessons, and I only have 10 spots per session. I cannot have more than 10 spots. So you have to go on our website and sign up. And what we do is Tuesdays and Thursday from 6:15 to 7:30 p.m. In Watsonville. And every other Wednesday, I have a land class in my house in Aptos, and then we put everything online, and also they can come through our website. So our website is Apex Apnea PPC. That stands for Peak Performance Coaching.com, and yeah, they can check either the website or our Instagram. We're constantly putting
Perfect.
stuff on the
I'll
Instagram.
put the connections. I'll put all the links in the description below the podcast, so that won't be a problem. And wow, dude, I knew it. I knew we were going to have a great conversation when we were sitting there on the picnic bench overlooking some meaty waves there. And
No,
you did not disappoint, brother. So the next
excellent. No,
set wave, the next time we're out there together, I will gladly give you a set wave. I appreciate it.
no. And the thing is, like, I would love to at some point, if you want, if you have like a top athlete and you want me to come and help you in the sense of like, taking your training to a little bit to an extra notch. Because here's the thing, I'm a coach, so I always understand very well the dynamic of coaching, and every coach have their specialty, right? And for example, when I work with all different coaches, my thing is I don't want them to adapt to my routine, or I love to adapt to their routine. So a lot of my work in general tend to be the first time or a few times I will go to their session and see what they do, whether it's their warm up, and then I can tell them, like, hey, to the same warm up that you're doing, if you add this component with the breath work in it, you can actually maximize whether it's the movement, the training, the warm up, like lifting, like all these sorts of things. Like, so when I say like working together, I mean like, hey, I can always, and I would love to come and work with you on like things that you can
Well,
add into your routines that you have with your athletes. And I think that's where you start getting best bang for your buck. And then breath work doesn't become an extra thing, because that's the other thing when you're looking at like anybody that's training. I hate when they look at like a breath work into like, oh, that's another thing that I have to do. I'd rather have breath work being incorporated into what they're already doing, into what it's their routine. It's just a little bit like of improvement on what they're doing, and that
I
way
love it.
doesn't become like something that they don't necessarily feel like they want to do.
Well, you give me something to look forward to. We'll definitely connect our forces and make it happen. Ricardo, thank you so much for coming on. I've really enjoyed this.
No, thank you. I love it. Thank you for the opportunity.
And that's the end of this conversation, but I've got to ask, did you hold your breath somewhere during this whole thing? And how long did you last? Try it more often, and maybe even with Ricardo's help, and it could be a lot more. I speak from experience. Hey, follow us on Instagram at Rocky_Snyder. Check out the Perform Better 3-day functional summit, the NSCA National Conference. Check out my website, RockySnyder.com. And of course, check out Ricardo's work. And we'll just see you next week.